Welcome, curious minds. Tonight we're tackling a mystery, one that's really cast a long shadow over Los Angeles for well over 75 years now.
It's a case that's become almost synonymous with true crime itself, hasn't it? So deeply disturbing, so baffling.
Exactly. We are talking about the Black Dahlia.
It all starts back in January 1947. A crisp morning, a vacant lot in LA. A local woman walking by makes a discovery that, frankly, changes everything.
She found a body, right? But not just anybody.
No, it was a young woman posed in this really stark way and severed completely at the waist. It was instantly sensational, shook the whole nation, really.
And that kicked off this massive investigation. I mean, thousands of tips poured in, didn't they?
Oh, absolutely. A huge effort, but nothing. The trail just went cold. It left this legacy of unanswered questions we're still grappling with today.
So for you listening, our mission tonight is pretty straightforward. We want to lay out a concise timeline, every known detail, every twist, those clues that still just, confound everyone.
It give you a clear picture, quickly but thoroughly, of why this case just refuses to fade away.
More than 3/4 of a century, and still officially unsolved. It's incredible.
It really is. And I think to even begin to understand the case, you have to understand the victim.
Absolutely. So after that horrifying discovery in Leimert Park, the police pretty quickly figured out who she was. 22-year-old Elizabeth Short.
Born back east, Hyde Park, Massachusetts, July 29, 1924. Her early life, it wasn't exactly stable.
No, it sounds like it was marked by this longing for something else. And a lot of instability.
Definitely. A big turning point was in 1930. Her father, Cleo Short, he staged his own disappearance. He later turned up out in California. But imagine that impact on a young kid, that kind of abandonment. It leaves a mark. It shapes you.
You wonder how that played out later for her.
Well, she grew up mostly in Medford, Massachusetts. Had health issues too, right? Chronic asthma.
Yeah, and apparently she wasn't big on school, reports of truancy. She did work briefly as an usherette. Maybe a little hint of that Hollywood dream already.
Could be. By 1942, she's 18, and like so many others, she heads west to California.
Right. She went to Vallejo first, trying to live with her dad, the one who disappeared. He was working at a Navy shipyard there.
But that didn't really work out, did it? The relationship was strained, apparently never quite healed. Seems like she was always looking for somewhere to fit in.
Yeah, constantly searching. So by 1943, she leaves her dad's place for good, and then she starts moving around Southern California quite a bit.
Right. She worked for a time at the Camp Cook Post Exchange. That's Vandenberg Air Force Base now.
And then she got into a bit of trouble later that year.
September 43, arrested in Santa Barbara, underage drinking.
And that sent her back home for a bit.
Yeah, back to Medford. But only temporarily. That independent streak, that pull towards something more exciting, it was strong. She didn't stay put for long. Headed down to Florida next.
So 1944 to 46, she's down there.
Working odd jobs. Seems she spent a lot of time around military bases, hanging out with servicemen. This is where that sort of party girl label starts to emerge, especially after her death.
Right, the press really latched onto that.
Yeah, and we had to be careful with that label. It was likely, blown way out of proportion. Probably more about judging her after the fact than reality. It happens a lot, unfortunately.
Victim blaming, basically, sensationalizing to sell papers. Was that pretty common back then, especially for female victims?
Oh, definitely. It could almost serve to, justify the intense focus or even distract from the actual crime and the perpetrator. But Elizabeth's life, this sort of wandering existence, it came to that horrific end, January 15th, 1947.
Around 10 in the morning, right? In that vacant lot, South Norton Avenue, Leimert Park area.
That's the one. A local housewife, Betty Berzinger. She's the one who found her.
And at first, she thought it was a mannequin.
Yeah, imagine. Just discarded pieces of a store dummy. But then she got closer, and the reality was?
It was Elizabeth Short, bisected, posed. And drain of blood, right?
Completely drained, it appeared. The scene itself, the lack of blood there, suggested she was killed elsewhere and then brought to the lot.
The details are just nightmarish. Surgically severed, reports of missing organs.
Yeah, fueling all sorts of speculation. And her skin seemed cleaned, possibly with gasoline, maybe to wipe away any fingerprints or evidence.
Like the killer was trying to erase themselves from the scene after the fact.
Yeah.
So methodical.
And then there were the mutilations, the most infamous being that Glasgow smile, those cuts from the corners of her mouth towards her ears. Just horrific.
And the posing itself. Arms over her head, legs spread, like a gruesome display.
Exactly. The coroner even noted the precision of the bisection seemed, well, unusual, maybe suggesting someone with anatomical knowledge or even surgical skill. It wasn't just violence, it was this dark, deliberate message.
A kind of psychological terror.
Absolutely. Designed to shock, to horrify, way beyond the act itself.
And the scene immediately became chaotic, didn't it? Police, press, onlookers.
Swarmed. Everyone knew instantly this wasn't some random attack. This was calculated, chillingly deliberate.
The lack of blood, the preparation. It pointed to someone unnervingly calm, composed.
Someone leaving a very dark calling card. The city was terrified, and the media, well, they were just getting started.
That scene in Limerick Park really just set off a bomb, didn't it, in terms of media?
Remember, this is before TV really took hold. Newspapers were everything, and they jumped all over this story.
The gruesome details, this young, attractive victim, the sheer mystery of it.
It was perfect fodder for headlines. Elizabeth Short basically became this grim public figure overnight. It really showed the power of tabloid journalism back then, how it could shape the whole narrative. Sometimes, not for the better when it came to the actual investigation.
And it got even more intense really fast. The day after the discovery, January 16th.
Right. The Los Angeles Herald-Express gets a phone call. Someone claiming to be the killer.
Just straight up calling the newspaper. That's incredibly bold.
Terrifyingly bold. It added this whole new layer of fear. The public was already on edge, and now the killer was seemingly reaching out, taunting.
Controlling the story, almost.
Exactly. It felt like a sign this person wasn't just violent, but smart. Maybe even enjoying the chaos.
Then the next day, January 17th, they officially ID her, right? Using fingerprints.
Yep, confirmed it was Elizabeth Short. But that same day, that's when the name appears.
The Black Dahlia.
Coined by the Los Angeles Examiner, probably riffing off a popular movie at the time, The Blue Dahlia.
And that name just stuck.
It did. It transformed her, didn't it? From a person, a victim, into this haunting myth, the Black Dahlia.
And suddenly, it wasn't just a murder case anymore. It was like a cultural event. Everyone had a theory. Everyone was talking about it.
Endless speculation. Amateur detectives popping up everywhere. It guarantees her story would never really go away.
But the real killer wasn't finished making noise, were they?
Not at all. The naming just fueled the fire. But a few days later, things got even creepier. More direct contact.
The package, right. January 23rd. Sent to the Examiner again.
That's it. And inside, Elizabeth Short's things. Her birth certificate, social security card, photos, even her address book.
Just sending her personal effects to the press?
But here's the really chilling part. All of it had been wiped clean. With gasoline.
Gasoline again, so definitely trying to remove fingerprints, any trace.
It shows this shocking level of forensic awareness, doesn't it? A calculated move to destroy evidence while simultaneously delivering this trophy package. It told investigators and the public that this killer was smart, methodical, and frankly seemed to be enjoying the game.
Did the police realize right away how sophisticated this person might be?
I think they had to. It ratcheted up the fear immensely. This wasn't just murder. It felt like a twisted dialogue between the killer and the city, all playing out in the newspapers.
And then he called again.
Yeah, just 3 days later, January 26th, another call to the Examiner, this time apparently directly taunting the police.
Just rubbing it in their faces. The arrogance is unbelievable.
It really underscored how much they seemed to relish the chaos they'd created.
So by February 47, the investigation must have been just immense.
Oh, it became one of the biggest manhunts LA had ever seen. At one point, over 750 investigators were involved. Working around the clock, chasing down thousands of leads, the sheer volume must have been staggering.
But that spotlight, that huge media attention, it had downsides too, right?
Big time. It created this flood of false confessions. People desperate for attention, maybe disturbed individuals claiming they were the killer.
And every false confession took up valuable time and resources.
Exactly. It diverted police from potentially real leads, just muddied the whole picture. It made an already incredibly difficult job even harder. And meanwhile, the actual killer, probably just blending back into the city, hidden by all that noise they helped create.
So despite this huge effort, all those investigators, all those leads, the trail just started to cool off.
Yeah, inevitably.
Yeah.
As 1947 wore on into early 48, the solid leads just weren't panning out. The initial frenzy, that sense that they were close, it began to fade.
The public was still fascinated, I imagine.
Oh, absolutely. The case had this dark grip, But officially, the investigation seemed to hit a brick wall. Leads were exhausted, detectives were probably burning out, and the killer, still out there, anonymous.
So when did it become officially cold?
August 1949. That's when the Black Dahlia case was formally designated as unsolved, just over 2.5 years after she was found. It became part of LA lore, this symbol of a really high-profile, brutal crime that just got away.
But cold didn't mean completely abandoned.
No, not entirely. The LAPD knew how significant this case was. They apparently kept following up on leads informally well into the 1950s. The file itself, technically, was never closed. There was always that lingering hope, maybe someday.
And over the years, new ideas, new suspects started cropping up long after the initial heat was off.
Exactly. Decades passed, original investigators moved on. And then, new theories emerged. One name in particular gained a lot of traction much, much later, mostly because of a family member pushing it.
Dr. George Hodel.
That's the one. He was a pretty prominent doctor in LA back in the 40s and 50s, well-connected. His potential connection only really came to light decades after the murder itself.
So long after the initial investigation had wound down.
Right, and his story, the circumstantial evidence that his own son uncovered, it adds this whole other layer of complexity. Makes you rethink some of the original assumptions.
So here we are today, over 75 years later, and the Black Dahlia case is still this gaping wound in true crime history.
It really is. A testament to one of the most grotesque and enduring unsolved murders in America. The questions are just as sharp now as they were back then.
It's captured imaginations for generations, hasn't it? Books, movies, endless theories.
Absolutely. From the sensationalism right at the start to the sheer brutality of it all, it just defies any easy answers. A killer who seemingly vanished into thin air, leaving this huge question mark.
You look at the crime scene, the planning, those calls, the package, it points to someone incredibly cunning, deeply disturbed.
And someone who managed to outwit a massive police investigation. Names like George Hodel offer these, compelling possibilities, but still unproven. No one has ever officially been charged.
So the mystery just persists. Elizabeth Short, this young woman who came looking for something in Hollywood, is forever frozen as the Black Dahlia.
Yeah, her story is this tragic echo. A reminder that some mysteries, maybe, just don't give up their secrets no matter how much we look.
Perhaps the most chilling thought is that maybe we'll never know. Maybe some evils just go unpunished.
It's a deeply unsettling possibility, isn't it?
It really is. We genuinely want to know what you think about all this. What are your theories? Do you think we'll ever find out who the killer was? Let us know in the comments.
And if you found this concise timeline helpful, please do give us a like, share with anyone you know who's interested in true crime, and definitely subscribe. We explore baffling mysteries like this all the time, and your support really helps us keep doing it.